Well, it is once again time for movie reviews on Pure 247 Radio, and I'm very pleased to welcome once again Andy Godfrey. Hello, Andy. How are you?
Hey Nathan, I'm well. It's a beautiful day here in Milton Keynes, and I hope it is nice where you are. Beautiful days are perfect for sitting in the cinema in a dark room.
Yes,
Which I've been
absolutely.
doing this week. I managed to catch three films, which at the moment, with my life being so busy, it's been quite good for me.
Yeah, no, it's as we often say, movies are a fantastic form of escape, and
Yeah.
just the ability to switch off is very important in such a busy world.
I love it. I walk into a cinema and I turn my phone off. Nobody can get hold of me for a couple of hours. I'm in a completely other world. I explained this in the introduction to my book about the Wizard of Oz. That every single time I go to the cinema, and I worked out, Nathan, I've been 34 times so far this year. Um, um, every single time, it's for me, it's like going to Oz. It's like going to another world and escaping and relaxing, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But I thought we'd start with something a little bit different this week, just a little bit of movie news. So let's start with some news that really excited me. Um, we know that people who listen to Pure 247 are very discerning people. We know they're people who love their music, right?
Absolutely.
And so for one of my favorite groups of all time, and I'm a massive, massive, massive fan, is the Beatles. Okay, I love the Beatles. I have every single Beatles album on vinyl,
Wow.
and I love them. And of course, the Beatles made a number of films, and news has come out this week that four films are going to be made. They're going to be ready by 2028, and each one's going to concentrate on a different member of the band. So there's going to be a film about John Lennon, a film about Paul McCartney, a film about George Harrison, a film about Ringo Starr. And they're all being directed by the same director, Sam Menzies, who in the past has directed Bond. So this was, to me, as a Beatles lover, as a lover of their music, was really, really exciting. I mean, their lives, okay. The split up was a little bit acrimonious when they split in the late 60s, early 70s. Some of their stuff's a bit wacky and way out there. There's the second side of Sergeant Pepper, which is a really weird Indian track. There's a track on the White Album, which is basically nothing but noise. And goes on and on. You think, oh, please let this end, because the White Album otherwise is brilliant. So there's a new film coming. So anyway, I just wanted to mention this because next week in Cineworld, there is a new film coming out about John and Yoko. It's a kind of a docudrama about John and Yoko and their fascinating lifestyle as well. And we know that one of the reasons the band split was because Yoko Ono was sort of always hanging around, and Paul and the others didn't get on well with her. Paul and George and Ringo didn't get, and John insisted she was there. And if you watch a very fascinating documentary, I just wanted to mention in the wake of this, the Beatles films, because I've got them all on DVD. But if you watch this film, which is called Let It Be, which has recently been expanded by Peter Jackson, who made Lord of the Rings, into an 8-hour documentary. This is just footage of the Beatles recording their last ever album, building up to their last ever concert, which is the one they did on the roof of the Apple building in central London. They brought central London to a standstill. They just got up on the roof and they performed songs from Let It Be. And Yoko Ono is a constant presence, but she just sits there. She's not saying anything. She's not doing anything. She's just literally sitting there staring into space. And some of the other Beatles found it really difficult to get on with. But I do like the Beatles films. And I just wanted to say, if people haven't seen the Beatles films, but they do like the Beatles music, because we know that people like music. So Hard Day's Night was the first one, shot in black and white, 1964. A day in the life of the Beatles, basically. They wake up in the morning, they're doing a big concert in the evening, and they're being chased by fans during the day, and they get on trains and they run away and they hide. Basically, a day in the life of the Beatles being obsessed by fans, chased by fans. So that is actually a really good film. And then the second one that they made was Help. Help tells the story of a mystical ring that Ringo finds, and they travel all over the world trying to unearth the mystery of this particular ring. But it's got some great tracks on it on the soundtrack, including Ticket to Ride and The Night Before and You're Gonna Lose That Girl, and of course Help. And the interesting thing about this is on the cover, on the poster for the film, the Beatles are there in semaphore, but that doesn't spell help. Well, if you look at the Beatles at the album of Help, the picture, they are not spelling out the word help. It's just some random letters. Literally, you'd think that would say help in semaphore, but it doesn't, because apparently help, when they did the movements for the word help, it didn't look very photogenic. So anyway, there you go. So I just want to mention this because I think these are great films and people should go back and enjoy the music, and there's going to be a resurgence of interest in Beatles starting next week. And the other one, of course, is Yellow Submarine, which I don't know if you've seen it. It's an animated film. The Beatles appear in the film, but they are not voiced by the Beatles. The Beatles only appear at the very, very end of the film. We've got actors voicing Paul and George and John and Ringo. It's a very weird film. It was meant to be a children's film. There is a rumor that a lot of the animators were actually high on LSD while they were animating because it's so weird. But it features All You Need Is Love and a few other great tracks, and of course Yellow Submarine. The Beatles wrote Yellow Submarine as a children's song. They wanted to show that they could write a song for children, so that's good. And then the only other one that the Beatles did was the Magical Mystery Tour. Now this is a weird and wacky way out film. It was first shown on Boxing Day in December 1967 on TV, and the BBC made a big thing of it. The Beatles. Christmas tree, eat your Christmas dinner, sit down and watch the Beatles, the biggest band in the world, the most famous people in the world, watch their new film. And it's incomprehensible, this film. It just literally leaps from one scene to another with no link in between and no sense in between. Okay. My favorite moment is they sing a song called Your Mother Should Know, which is a great pop song. And they're dressed in white suits and they're coming down a glamorous staircase, a really tall staircase in a ballroom somewhere. But it's a great scene. But the Magical Mystery Tour has got Strawberry Fields on it. It's got The Fall on the Hill. It's got some other great songs as well. So these are the Beatles films, and I'm actually going to go back and rewatch them. I've seen them all several times. But in the wake of the fact that I think we are going to see Beatlemania resurge again. And it's interesting that the guy who directed a lot of the James Bond films has committed to direct these 4 films. So just wanted to mention that as a bit of movie news. The other bit of movie news is that we've heard that Bond 26 has been confirmed. So a few weeks ago, we got the news that Amazon have now got the rights to James Bond. We still don't know who's going to play James Bond, but we do know that there is going to be a new Bond film. And as I suspected, if you saw the last film, you'll know that, and it's no spoiler alert now, but James Bond died. Okay. Right at the end of the film, his girlfriend is in the car with his young daughter. And she says, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about a man called Bond, James Bond. And apparently the plan for the next one is that we'll go right back into James Bond's youth and we'll start telling the stories all over again, as if she's telling them to her daughter or to his daughter. So that's going to be fascinating. So 2 bits of good news as far as I was concerned this week. We're getting some new Beatles movies and we are getting a new Bond movie.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I hope that was interesting.
And very interesting. I have heard about the new owners of the Bond franchise,
Yeah.
and it looks as though Amazon's buying pretty much everything, doesn't it?
It does.
Even Bond.
Somebody stop them. It's crazy,
Yes.
really.
Yeah, but it is nice to know that Bond will be revived. I mean, was it the 26th film this will be?
26th film, yeah. So Bond 25 was when he died, No Time to Die. The first one, of course, was Dr. No back in 1962, the year I was born. So that makes me feel very old.
Yeah.
And there is an interesting link here because Dr. No came out in October 1962. On the very same day, the Beatles released their first ever single.
Wow.
Which is Please Please Me. So the first Beatles song and the first Dr. James Bond film were released on exactly the same day. And 2 great British cultural icons were born, well, James Bond had been in print, of course, but film-wise, were born on exactly the same day in October 1960. Isn't that incredible, really, when you think about it?
Crazy.
And there's a great book called Live and Let Love, which is about the the impact that Bond and the Beatles had on British culture, and I'd really recommend it to people. It's a terrific book. It's about the Beatles and it's about Bond, and the fact that they kind of came out together and moved on together, and yeah, so yeah. But do have a look at the Beatles films if you've never seen them. They are really entertaining films, really well made actually. As I say, Magical Mystery Tours, wacky. Yellow Submarine is a crazy kids film, but very very enjoyable.
I mean, I actually never knew that the Beatles had made films, so that is
Okay,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, Help is a black and white film, basically a day in the life of the Beatles. Help is sorry, A Hard Day's Night is a day in the life of the Beatles. Help is this one that they filmed in Australia, they filmed in the Bahamas, they filmed in Austria, they filmed all over the world, chasing this magical ring that Ringo has found, and it's supposed to have some sort of powers. But they're really, really entertaining films and worth seeing. They turn up on TV, normally on BBC Three, something like that occasionally. They haven't turned up for a while. But as you've just seen, I have them all on DVD and Blu-ray, and they're a great collection to have. So, yeah, so I just thought we'd mention that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Interesting. So, two, obviously, as you say, it's hard to measure the kind of the impact, the influence of those two, two parts of British culture
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I mean, the
it's
Beatles totally changed music forever.
yeah.
Okay, you had Elvis, you had Cliff about that time, you had other groups, the Rolling Stones, doing other things. But the Beatles were the first band to ever have multi-tracking, to overdub their songs. They were the first band to ever have, the same person singing different lines on the song over themselves,
Kind of pioneers,
overdubbing.
really.
Yeah, they were real pioneers, and if you listen to their albums in order, which is actually what I've been doing, Please Please Me, the first one is very poppy, and then you get a bit psychedelic with Sergeant Pepper, and then they actually go back to pop towards the end of their time. And of course, the very last album of all was Abbey Road, which is my favourite Beatles album. And last year I went up to Abbey Road and walked across the famous zebra crossing. Didn't take my shoes off like Paul McCartney did. But there's talk that they're going to be digging up that zebra crossing. Please don't. I mean, it's the most famous zebra crossing in the world. Please don't dig it up.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Interesting movie news. We ought to move on to some movie
Yeah,
reviews, though, shouldn't we?
yeah. Very quickly then. So, three films I've seen at the cinema this week, two of which are out today. Okay. So, first of all, The End. This is a 12A certificate. We are 25 years after the world has been devastated by climate change. And we are in an underground bunker where we meet a very rich family who have everything you could possibly want at the end of the world. They have food, they have electricity, they have power, they have collected all the world's great paintings, they have collected all the world's great works of art. They are basically the last family alive, and they are living in an underground bunker in a frozen world, but in the lap of luxury. The thing is, periodically, they burst into song. Now, I love a musical, just like the Beatles. I love a musical. Anyone who's read my book knows that I love Les Miserables, Singing in the Rain, Sound of Music. I love a musical. This is called The End, and the end for me just could not come quick enough. The songs are monotonous. Here we are at the end of the world, and we're going to sing about it. They are unmemorable. The film goes on for over 2 hours. When I walked into the cinema, there were 7 of us. By the midway point of this boring, turgid film about rich people singing about their privileged lives when everybody else is dead, I was the only one left in the cinema. Now, seriously, the other 6 had walked out before halfway. That is how turgid, that is how boring this film really is. It's a 12A certificate. I sat there. I've never walked out of a film in my life. Seriously, never.
Yeah.
I so wanted to walk out of this. I mean, I was the only person in the set. I was actually walking around changing seats to keep myself awake. I actually walked up and down the steps a few times while the film was playing because it was just so boring. Halfway through the film, a young lady from the outside world turns up, and they're very suspicious of her and who is she and do we let her into our family and do we feed her because she's obviously been scavenging for a living on the frozen surface of the planet. And I thought, oh great, some interest. No, boring, dull. Yes, we will let her in and we will sing to her all about our wonderful. Oh, go away, just end. I was praying for the end to end. So 12A certificates in cinemas now. Got a great cast: Tilda Swinton, George Mackay, great actors, but man alive, was it boring. The second film, I have been long complained for a long time that horror films are not scary anymore. Okay. I have been longing, I have been begging for several years now for a horror film to come along and actually scare me, actually do what it says on the tin. So I went in to see a film which is a 15 certificate, called The Woman in the Yard. And we are on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Mum has got a broken leg as a result of a recent car crash. Dad died in the car crash. She's there living with this broken leg on a dilapidated farm because she obviously can't run it with her two young children. Gets up one morning, looks out the window, and in the yard is a woman dressed in black. Where's she come from? Who is she? We don't have a clue. As soon as this woman in black appears, mysterious things start happening. The chickens die as soon as this woman appears. The dog disappears. Weird things start happening in the house. And I sat there and I watched this and I was thinking, another scary film that's not going to be scary, until suddenly something happened that made me jump out of my skin. And then about 10 minutes later, something else happened that made me jump out of my skin. And about 15 minutes after that, something happened that made me jump out of my skin. And we actually have a scary film that is scary, and it really is unnerving. And I sat there and I thought, I am so grateful, because I have complained for so long that scary films aren't scary. People go on roller coasters to be scared at fun fairs. This is the point I made in my book. People go on ghost train rides. People, do dangerous things. I get my kicks from scary movies. Lots of people like scary movies. We haven't had a genuinely scary movie for as long as I can, almost as long as I can remember. The last one was a film called Mother, which was in 2019, that genuinely scared me. And I loved it. And I walked out and thought, wow, thank you. A scary film that scared me. So if you like your scare, it could easily have been, I think if they'd gone for a little less gore, it could have been a 12A certificate. Unfortunately, they decided to go down the 15 route. But it's a really good film, The Woman in the Yard. Also a 15 certificate that should have been a 12A, I think. But it's a film called Death of a Unicorn. So we meet a dad. He's driving through the Rocky Mountains with his daughter. He's a lawyer, and we're on our way to meet his new boss. So he's going to spend the weekend with his new boss and their family. And these are rich, obnoxious, horrible people who are entrepreneurs and only interested in money. Okay? But they're going to employ this guy as their new family lawyer. He's driving through the mountains with his daughter in the passenger seat, and suddenly they hit something. Is it a deer? Is it a horse? Is it a pony? Turns out to be a unicorn. And the film's called Death of a Unicorn. They get out of the car. They go to look at this thing. They can't believe it. The little girl grabs hold of the horn, the unicorn's horn, and suddenly has this incredible mystical experience where she's seeing visions of the universe and stars and even a dead mother and so on and so on. The dad then kills the unicorn and they put it in their car. When in the process of killing the unicorn, some of the unicorn's blood has got on this little girl's face and we see her acne disappear. So what we quickly realise is that this unicorn has got healing qualities in its blood and in the horn. There's always this legend that the horn of a unicorn would contain the cure for cancer. Okay, but that's the premise of this film. They get to this obnoxious family. They start to spend the weekend with them. The obnoxious family begins to realise that something's not quite right. What's that in your car? Oh, well, it's just an animal. What is it? It's a unicorn. They start to realise that And then it gets very ET. I don't know if you've seen ET. There's a scene in ET where all the scientists turn up. Well, suddenly loads of scientists turn up and start experimenting on this unicorn, on its horn and on its blood and so on. The thing is, though, this is a baby unicorn, and Mum and Dad turn up, and Mum and Dad are not happy. In fact, Mum and Dad roar like a T-Rex. They sound like a T-Rex straight out of Jurassic Park. Made me think of our great late friend Steve Legg, because Steve loved the Jurassic Park movies. I was thinking, Steve, you'd love this. They roar like a T-Rex. Honestly, so that's the basic premise. I don't want to say more than that. The film goes on from there. Basically, this couple have hit and killed a baby unicorn. Mum and Dad turn up for revenge. They're not happy and wreak havoc. It is entertaining. It is funny. It is gory. Again, if they'd gone for a little less gore, I think it could have been a very successful 12A. But this is not your sort of Barbie, fluffy pink unicorns that fly over rainbows. These are wild animals that, are very upset that the human race has killed one of their number. So that's definitely. So those are three that are in the cinema. Also out today for families. So we had a 12A there. We had a 215. For 12A certificate today. I've never played it, but the movie of Minecraft is out today. Now, I don't know if you've ever played the game Minecraft. Little bit, yeah. Okay, so the movie's out today. I've not seen it yet. It looks good, pure fantasy fun. So, that's out today. So if people are looking to go to the cinema with their family, Minecraft is out today, and it's a PG certificate. So there you go. Shall we just do a couple to watch at home very quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Want to? Okay, so a couple to watch at home. A couple that are on Netflix. So a film called Don't Worry, Darling. This is set in the near future, and stars one of the people who was in not Take That, One Direction, Harry
Styles.
Harry Styles stars in this. So basically, Harry Styles we're in the 50s. Sorry, I said near future. I'm thinking sorry. Start again. Don't worry, darling. We're in the 50s. Get it right, Godfrey. We're in the 50s. Harry Starling is newly married. Harry Styles is newly married. Takes his young wife off to a retreat in the middle of nowhere. All these places are in the middle of nowhere, where a community is being built for people who work in a certain factory. So he's working in this factory. All the workers are living in nice homes near the factory. Everything is provided for them. Every luxury you could imagine. Looks like paradise as far as the 50s are concerned. Every mod con, everything is provided for these new couples that are moving out to live in homes near the factory where they're working. But all is not well. It takes on a very fantasy, very dark, very surreal tone, this film. I really enjoyed it. I think it's the 12A. It's on Netflix. It's called Don't Worry, Darling. If you like dark fantasy stuff, that takes a little while to figure out exactly what's going on, but it's really, really good. It's a 12A certificate. Sing Sing is also on Netflix now, I noticed. Now, Sing Sing is a film that came out last year based on a true story. This is about Sing Sing prison in New York. And we meet real life prisoners. We don't actually know that they're real life prisoners until we actually see them over the end credits. Okay, we think it's all actors. It isn't. It's real life prisoners. And the film is about them putting on a show in the prison theatre, putting on a musical. It's called Sing Sing. It is compelling. It is revealing. It is insightful. It is a show. It is a film that is very entertaining. I mean, I talked about the end with the dull, monotonous songs that are just so repetitive. You just wanted to get out of there. Sing Sing has got really good songs in it, really lovely show tunes performed by real life prisoners, and is based on a true story of prisoners putting on a show within their prison to help with their rehabilitation with some of them. And I was really captivated by it. It's on Netflix. And then also on Sky and other places, Nathan, is a new version of Noah's Ark. This is a kids' cartoon version. So again, for families this weekend, go see or do download Noah's Ark. It's a musical. It's about a couple of slow-moving animals trying to get on board the ark, basically. Now we talked about unicorns. There was a song by the Bachelors in the 50s that said the reason that you don't see a unicorn today is because they didn't get on the ark. Okay, the unicorns were too busy playing in the rain and didn't get on the ark, so that's why you don't see a unicorn. But this film is a cute, cuddly. Now, I don't think Noah's Ark is a cute, cuddly story. It's not a kid's story. It's a story of devastation. People are dying in the floods, you know. And Ridley Scott made a film called Noah's Ark a few years ago, which was really quite ludicrous. This is a kid's version of it. This is the little children's Bible. It's like they've taken the children's Bible story, but basically animated it. So if people are looking for something like that this weekend, and to introduce your kids to the story of Noah's Ark, that is now widely available to download. It's funny, it's entertaining. It's just over an hour long, and for kids, if you've got young kids, Noah's Ark, the new version, is definitely worth seeing. And that is my movie thoughts for this week.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. Plenty there for everyone, it would seem. I'll be honest with you, I'm not that big a fan of scary films. So
Right, okay,
that's not
yeah,
the sort of thing I would want to go and
yeah.
see. But, to each his own. And as you
This
say,
one there was a TV series in the 60s called The Twilight Zone, in which weird things happen to people in the Twilight Zone. This would have made a good episode of that TV series. It did give me shivers. And I got home, and the more I thought about it, the more it made me shiver. But it makes sense. There are clues planted all the way through the film as to what's going on, and yeah, I liked it. It was my film of the week. But as I say, Minecraft is out. Noah's Ark for families. Those are two films that I think are really worth seeing. Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Andy, for bringing us these movie reviews and also a bit of movie news about
Yes.
the new potential Bond film coming out, well, I guess within the next couple of
I
years.
think it's like the Beatles films that we mentioned. It's scheduled for 2028.
Okay.
So I mean, they haven't even started casting it yet. They have started working on the script by all accounts, which takes us right back to James Bond's childhood. I mean, in Spectre, which was the penultimate James Bond film, we got a glimpse of his childhood. In Skyfall, which is my favourite Daniel Craig Bond film, we got a glimpse of Bond's childhood. We went back to his childhood home, and we actually saw the grave of his parents in Skyfall. Spectre, we learned a little bit more about how he grew up. So this hopefully it will be faithful to the Fleming books, because very often the Bond of the movies is not the Bond of the books, and I prefer, and again I said this in the book, that I prefer the Bond films that more reflect the Bond of the books rather than, in the books, James Bond does not like himself. He does not like what he does for a living. He is morose, he is drunk, he is quite a bad-tempered, not nice person in the books, because he's killing people for a living. He doesn't like doing that, but he's good at it, and he gets on and does the job for, in those days, Queen, we would say King, but Queen and country. So the Bond of the books is very often very different to the Bond of the movies, which is why I like Daniel Craig, because Daniel Craig said to the producers, if you give me the role of James Bond, I want to play him as he's written in the books. I don't want to be a flamboyant playboy who's, out in nightclubs and splashing money around and driving fast cars and all the rest of it just for the sake of it. I want to play him as Ian Fleming created him. And that's why Daniel Craig initially took some stick for the way he played Bond. But what a lot of people didn't realize was that he was actually playing Bond. He was actually playing Bond as Ian Fleming intended Bond to be. So it will be very interesting to see which way they decide to go. Do we go down the Roger Moore route of a lot of humour, a lot of flamboyance, a lot of girls, a lot of drinks, lots of expensive stuff and gadgets, or do we go down the Daniel Craig route, more down to earth, more realistic, a Bond who really doesn't like what he does for a living, but recognises that there is a job that has to be done if the world's going to be saved.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And
yeah,
interesting what you say about how different actors have portrayed Bond in a very different and unique way.
yeah. I mean, the first couple of films are great with Sean Connery. Then they started to get a bit silly with Diamonds Are Forever. George Lazenby, who played Bond in the just once in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I thought was exceptionally good. There's a great line. Sean Connery had played James Bond in 5 movies, and then he said, "I'm giving it up." And they brought in this unknown actor called George Lazenby. And if you ever watch On Her Majesty's Secret Service, there's a moment at the start of the film where basically a young lady runs away from him. And this new actor playing Bond looks straight into the camera, he looks straight at us, and he says, "This never happened to the other fella." And I've met George Lazenby, the actor who played James Bond in that film. I had a long conversation with him. And I asked him about that line, and he said, "Oh, that was my idea. I just wanted to say I'm the new Bond." He actually, if you watch the Blu-ray, the director says it was his idea. So they're a bit odd. But that was the film where James Bond got married. The marriage didn't last very long because his wife is killed right at the end of the film. In what is, I think, the second most moving scene in Bond history, because obviously now we've seen James Bond himself die. Um, but so yeah, so you had Sean Connery, you had George Lazenby, you had Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Dalton did 2 films, and then you had Daniel Craig. Timothy Dalton was a very good Bond in my view, because again he was much more like the Bond of the books than Roger Moore. The Roger Moore films were really good, but they were fun, they were flamboyant, they were over the top. There was an excessive use of gadgets. I mean, Moonraker setting out in space is ludicrous, actually. And so, for me, the more realistic Bond, the less reliance on gadgets and the more on his brain, the better.
Interesting, yeah. It is interesting and like you say, it's been around for a long time, so it'll be interesting to see how they progress next with that. But thank you so much for bringing us the movie reviews this today, Andy. It's great to hear from you again. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Nathan, and you, and love to everybody here, and God bless everybody listening.